So in this video, we're going to talk about how do you be a good dad if you didn't have one? Or how do you be a good man in the world if you didn't have a good role model? And I know that good there's a loaded term, but that's really a huge part of the inspiration behind, the work I feel really called to do and to share. Because, growing up with an alcoholic abusive father, who to his honor actually did apologize to both me and my brother years later for his behavior, you know, caused me to have to go looking for the answer to this question. How do I be a guy? How do you be a good, what does it mean to be a man, alive in the world today? And so that journey for me started 30 years ago. And so now, obviously, with what's going on in the world, with changes in roles, society, economics, with gender fluidity, it's even more confusing. Or I'm meeting more and more people who are confused. So, what I want to share with you in this video, in the next 8 to 10 minutes or so, is what are some of the pillars? What are some of the cornerstones of healthy, authentic masculinity that then lead to being a great father or lead to being a great man? So the few things I've observed are what I call authority, which is that you own yourself, meaning I don't blame you or anyone else for what I'm feeling or what I'm thinking. It's like, there are three ways of living life: as if life is happening to us, as if life is happening for us, or as if we are happening for life. Okay, now that's a bit of a leap, but we'll talk about how we can get there, right? So if life is happening to me, other people are to blame for what's going on. I can blame them for what I'm feeling. So the first pillar is, and ideally, as I look at, I've got sons and I look at how people are being raised, it should ideally be in place about age 13 to 15. Like you're able to go, this is because of me. This is my feeling. That consequence in life happened because of something I did. So there's responsibility, there's agency, there's authority. And so when you have authority, you don't have to try and have authority over others, and other people can't have authority over you. It's a very neutral, strong, solid, centered, and embodied place. And I think that's really key to mention is that one thing I've learned and I've put into all the work that I now do with men is that it can't just be a cerebral understanding. It needs to be an embodied experience. And if you get those two things together, like you have a map and a process, then it can work really well. So once we've got a sense of authority, well, then we have presence. And presence is different to focus. Like I can focus on one thing, I can focus on another thing. But presence is more of an open focus, which means I'm here with you. But I can only be here with you if there's an I, if there's a me inside. And there can only be a me if there's someone who's got agency, who's taken responsibility for themselves and not blaming everyone else. And so how that shows up in parenting, for example, is this idea that forms that my presence is enough. My presence is good. Having the father I did, I had to really learn that men aren't bad. Masculinity isn't bad. People can do quote unquote bad things, i.e. abuse of power, disrespect, abuse, rape, shame, taking things by force, greed. Look at the last 6,000 years of history, right? But intrinsically, innately, we're not bad. There is goodness in masculinity. Masculinity is needed. When you listen to the world, and I do, I've been in practice for 20 years and seen more than 100,000 patient visits in that time. People aren't saying, I want less men. I want him to show up more, is what I hear. I want him to listen more. I want more of his presence. I believe the world would be made a lot better if there was more masculinity, not just less, but more in a wholesome, integrated way. So once we have authority and we have presence, then the trick, now the dance begins, right? And the dance, I'm smiling because now when masculine meets feminine, it doesn't matter if that's in a homosexual man and another homosexual man, or a heterosexual guy and a woman, or woman and woman. It doesn't matter what the format is. When masculine and feminine meet, and I'm just going to use that because it's a more charged example, can be between two men also, as in two men who aren't intimate. Can I hold my presence and my authority, my center, without losing myself in you? Or can we have an emotional tussle without me trying to fix you or you trying to fix me? Can we honor each other's sovereignty and respect our differences and then go somewhere new together? What happens very often is people tussle and someone compromises. So rather than you have the opportunity to tussle and really hold who you are and be who you are and honor the other, someone becomes less. So my model that I love, if you can do connection well, it's 1 + 1 is 11, or 1 + 1 is 111, depending on the power of the individuals involved, right? So the idea is if I hold and you hold, we go somewhere new rather than someone clap. So that's the third pillar, right? Connection. So when I'm with my kids, if I'm in a father role, I'm going to hold me and let them hold them. Obviously, as they're getting younger, they need support with how do you do that and what does that mean? And, and you have to, well, yeah, there's an opportunity there to do that if you say wish. I choose to wish. But if you hold that with another adult, you allow them to, because of your embodied present example, do it for themselves, right? And it's magic. And once you have that, then the fourth pillar of masculinity, as I see it, really comes online, which is legacy. I can create and offer something to the world that makes the world a better place because I did it. And in that zone, this is where life is really happening through you, or you're happening for life. It's not Krishan doing something because he's the guy, right? I've tried that. It doesn't work so well, excuse me. This is completely different. This is, no, I feel inspired to do something, and that really lights me up. So I'm going to do that. I'm following the crumbs that, what I like to call my inner soul GPS. We all have an inner GPS, and you follow that. So we have, and then once you've done that, once you've really had that sense of legacy, and this can be, I'm going to have a different standard for how tidy I leave my kitchen, to this is something I want to offer the world, to a company, a business, a mission, a vision. It can be anything, but it's legacy because you're doing something that lasts longer than you. So if you teach your children something, it will, God willing, and they live longer than you, last longer than you, right? So this is the idea. And once you have that sense of legacy, you build a gratitude, and then it spirals back into your authority, but now at a higher octave, right? You've gone up a gear. And so your authority gets bigger. Your sense of who you are is bigger. You're taking more responsibility. So your presence gets bigger. So your connections get stronger. So your legacy gets larger. And on and on and on and on it goes. And as I said, I hope this strikes a chord and is useful. But the thing to really remember is these are the steps, as it were, or these are useful steps, and to get them embodied as well. If you can find an embodied practice that really helps you to do that, then you're onto a winner, which is what this channel is all about. And so, now that you know this, I would highly encourage you to go and watch. There's a few videos that will be useful. One is on navigating the masculinity crisis. There's one on, how to be a good dad, which I'll link those in here. There's one on, power dynamics. There's a few that might be useful. I'll put some links afterwards. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now.